Welcome to Everlutionary, a podcast about how we can restore balance and heal the world. Every episode of my show, we explore the future of humanity and how we've gotten to where we are today. Through inspirational stories about healing, science, and mysticism, we'll see how we can reshape our society to create a world free of violence. I'm your host, Hawah Kasat. Peace, peace, peace. What's up, y'all? Thanks for tuning back in. We out here, I'm out here, and I'm rolling solo today. There's a lot happening in the world, and I'm feeling heavy, and I also want to channel some lightness and a way to unburden ourselves from some of the heaviness. So as I do feel heavy, I also feel a lot of deep gratitude. And it's interesting to feel a lot of deep gratitude while also feeling a lot of heartache and grief. And so what I'm really leaning into and noticing is that grief and gratitude, they kind of go together in a really strange way. Grief and gratitude, they both kind of are deeply, intimately connected. And I'm going to be reflecting on that a little bit today throughout my podcast episode. And I want to create some space, as always, for deep curiosity and a little bit of poetry. And I'm going to create some space also for just some ease and tenderness in our lives as we're all navigating really turbulent times. And these turbulent times are metaphorical and they're also real and tangible. And we need to honor the cycles that we're passing through at the moment. And these cycles are what I want to reflect on today with a lot of you. I'm going to be reflecting on how we're reeling from climate change, weather events. I'll be reflecting a little bit on the biblical floods and hurricanes and the ways also that community has been coming together to support one another. And I'll be reflecting a little bit on the general feeling of the world being in chaos, which I know is an experience that is not particular to just me, but something most people who are tuned in and tapped in to global current events are feeling right now. And then finally, I'm going to do something I've never done yet on this podcast. I'm going to end with a short breathing exercise to help you ground in your body and to help release any lodged stress and anxiety. If we were in a classroom together right now, I might start by asking you to raise your hand if you're feeling like the world is spinning really fast and feels very chaotic. Let's check in for a second, all of you, wherever you are, wherever you're listening from. I'm going to invite you to really think about what you're doing right now while you're listening to my voice. What's your current state of being? Are you driving a car? Do you have your hands on a steering wheel? Are you noticing a need to look around? Are you in your home somewhere? Are you walking through the park? Are you juggling multiple things at once right now? Are you feeling like you're rushing? Let's slow down as we ask that question one more time. Are you feeling like you're rushing? If you're rushing and trying to get somewhere or finish something as fast as you can you notice how that makes you perhaps feel a little bit scattered? Can you notice how trying to move really fast might be impacting your heart rate, maybe your breath? My partner and I, we recently have been working on catching ourselves when we are in the energy of rushing. And when we feel like we are having to hurry or run or move really fast to get somewhere or finish something. And we'll check each other. We'll literally just call each other out and remind each other to slow down and to stop rushing. I offer you that right now as a way to start interrupting the collective energy that has many of us feeling like there is never enough time to do everything we want. Not enough time in a day to answer all the emails and to run all the errands. Not enough time in the day to fix that broken ceiling fan in your house, or to get your car insurance up to date, or to even get to the doctor to take care of that chronic pain that you've been feeling. Or maybe you do have enough time in the day to do all the things you have to do, but in order to squeeze it all in, you gotta hurry, you gotta run, you've gotta rush. And so we're running from one thing to another. And when we run and we rush and we move really fast, whatever we do, we can't really do quite right or well or to the best of our abilities because it only receives a partial part of our attention. The first thing that comes to my mind as I reflect on why the world is feeling so chaotic right now is that we create lots of chaos for ourselves when we are rushing. And humanity, well, humans, yes, us, the apes that walk on 2 feet, we've been rushing, we've been running, we've been trying to go from ape to superhuman as fast as we can. We want to travel to other planets before we can even figure out how to live in right relationship with each other and our planet. This green blue marble that's floating through the galaxy. We're less concerned about taking care of this planet sometimes and more concerned about exploring other planets. And so it makes sense we feel a bit scattered. We're trying to do 5,000 things at once. And I hope that little exercise of tuning in and tapping into what you're doing in this moment can help you understand that the energy of rushing is a part of also how we've been relating to our healing. And healing from thousands of years of trauma and oppression and violence. And we've never fully reckoned or taken the time to heal together. Instead, we just try and move on to the next thing. We're trying to rush our healing. And we can't rush healing because healing inherently takes time. And can you imagine trying to run a marathon with a broken leg and a few broken ribs and a concussion? That's us, humans. We out here trying to run the race of evolution without taking a beat and a pause to breathe and heal and come to terms with all the ways we have been broken. And we need to create time to heal. And that doesn't happen by rushing. Healing takes time, and it takes dedicated awareness and intention. Is the world feeling a bit scattered right now? Do you feel a bit chaotic yourself? What is it in your life that is making things feel really chaotic? When and how did the world become so chaotic? And why does it feel more chaotic now than at any other point in my personal near-term and long-term memory? The world seems to be spinning in 50 directions at once, and it can feel hard to know which way is up and which way is down. I've been catching myself scrolling through the news a lot lately. I feel like every day I'm tuning into some news source, reading headlines, trying to see what's happening, whether that's in Lebanon and Gaza and Palestine and Israel, or whether that's in the Ukraine. We're on the brink of World War III. We all know this. We've been tapped in some way to the violence. And also we're in the midst of the United States presidential election, one of the most important elections, perhaps, of our generation. And now let's enter stage left, the cataclysmic weather disasters. It's arrived. That's right. Climate change has arrived. It's not coming. It's not something we're preparing for anymore. It's not something that we're trying to start to avert because some of those windows have already closed, my friends. And in life, some windows close, and often when one window closes, another window opens. And right now, it feels like some windows are closing. And I feel like what we're feeling and sensing on a collective level is this sense of deep change and almost a sense of there's no going back. We've passed the point of no return. And so we're in the midst of even a deeper level of shedding, of deep transformation. And of course, we're in the midst of change and transformation. There is a desire, a deep desire to hold on to the familiar and to hold on to things as they used to be. And I remember for a long time learning about and thinking about how so much of our suffering is a result of us trying to control the conditions and control the environment around us. And so when we don't have control of the environment around us, we start to feel chaotic. Starting to sound familiar? We start to feel like we don't have agency. We don't have power. When we start to feel powerless, we start to feel like things are getting more and more out of our control. And so there's a sense of being powerless right now. There's a deep sense of not knowing what and how to engage in a world that is moving so fast. And because things are moving so fast, partly because they actually are moving really fast, they seem to be hyper exerting themselves. Situations, ideas, thoughts, our own emotions are hyper exerting and exhausting us. And it's true, time felt like, at least for me, like it moved a little bit slower back in the day. And I'm not talking about just 100 years ago or 300 years ago. I mean, of course, I wasn't alive then, but I was alive 30 years ago. And I've got enough short-term and long-term memory this time to actually recall and remember 30 years ago, when the world did feel like it was moving a little bit slower. There was a little bit more time to watch the grass grow. There was a little bit more time to climb trees. Maybe it was because I was a kid and I was young. Maybe it was because even back then in college, I was a cell phone holdout and I didn't have my own cell phone quite yet. And I have a memory of living in a time before social media even existed. And I have a memory of that time, a time when I wasn't constantly, rapidly putting my finger on the pulse of what is happening all around the planet and the world. And sure, I'd watch the news and read the newspapers here and there, but I didn't feel like everything was happening all in the same instant. There was some space between the moments. And that space between the moments was really important, because that space between the moments was the space where I could breathe and I could sit and I could not feel like the world was collapsing and falling apart all around me. And I want to really honor that there are many people in the world who are still feeling this sense of spaciousness right now. This sense of spaciousness I just described. There are children around the planet and adults, potentially, who are experiencing a bountiful sense of time and are not compressed and pressurized by current global events. And that does bring me some ease to think about that there are some people who are disconnected from the news cycles and even the tendency and behavior that sometimes is cultivated in our postmodern world to do everything possible we can get our hands onto and to do it all as quick and fast as we can. So there are humans right now out there who are not having this collective experience of grief and anxiety and suffering. Let's hold that for a moment. It's a beautiful thought that as much as some of us may be rushing and trying to just keep up, there are also perhaps just as many people out there who are moving slow and taking it day by day and not caught up in the rat race. And at least until a crazy, disastrous climate event strikes them, they may maintain this vibration of ease. And even while in the midst of a hurricane or a tornado or a flood, they may still keep this balance and peace. So that creates a little bit of hope, because we use the word collective a lot to describe what we're all feeling. And I just want to take a moment to name that even us saying that it's a collective experience we're all having, that might be a little short-sighted or not as all-encompassing of what a definition of collective might mean. Because collectively, there are actually lots of humans out in the world that are not in deep struggle and suffering in the same ways. Even if physically some of these humans may not have all of the material wealth that other humans have, they might have an emotional and spiritual ease that is present in their being. And so let's name that for a second, that little piece of hope, that collective is expansive, that collective is wide, ranging, and all-encompassing. I need to honor all the people who are trying to pull together their lives and family and friends and loved ones. Talking about hope right now, and I need to really honor that so many people right now have their lives devastated and destroyed by Hurricane Helene and now Hurricane Milton. It has been utterly heartbreaking to witness this tragedy. I've got friends that live in Asheville and live in Florida and all the places in between, and hearing the stories and connecting with folks that are in the midst of this apocalyptic disaster. It's been really heartbreaking. And it's also been inspiring to see how the community has rallied together and is supporting one another, protecting one another, helping one another. Perhaps in our times of most terrible events and conditions, we can see the most beautiful, mythic, and magical parts of humanity. That's also beautiful. In the midst of the disaster, there is beauty, the beauty of the resilience of the human spirit. And I've been moved to my own tears while watching the catastrophes. I've found myself lighting candles late at night and burning sage and deeply feeling all the nature being displaced by human-created climate change. And as much as humans' lives are being upended, so are the lives of all the creatures who are inhabiting the rainforests and the coral reefs and the oceans and the rivers and the swamplands and the mountains. Oh, oh, the mountains. Your rock and your bone and your stone, your ancient peaks that are eroding. As much as there is human life being displaced and dismembered by hurricane floods, there's also been moments where late at night I've been sitting with the ants and the squirrels and the manatee and the dolphins and the ducks and all the wildlife. It's interesting to take a moment to think about and to really feel, where do all the spiders scurry to? Where do they hide? Where do the birds fly to? And what about the birds that can't fly? What about that tree which was the home to the nest of that bird with its babies? What happens to them? And what's been happening to all of the beavers and the muskrat and the frogs? What about the possums and the raccoons and the coyote? Where does life run when it has nowhere left to go? Where does life go when the conditions around it are disintegrating and falling apart? So that's part of my meditation today. I just want to take a moment and gather us as people for a moment around the life forms that are impacted by bombs and tanks and fighter jets and the inability of humans to have the foresight to listen to scientists and to change our destructive habits of destroying ecosystems. Humans are losing their lives and suffering at a level and scale right now that is deeply disturbing. And every fighter jet and bomb and gun that goes off and explodes is also disturbing and destroying the home and habitat of another living creature. It's not only humans that suffer from our own chaoticness. Creatures around the planet are having to live in the wake of our irresponsible decision-making and leadership and lack of care and empathy. So it's all of life that also becomes part of our narrative in this story. And I want to hold that narrative in that story for a moment, in this story, because it is our story. And I was feeling a lot for the animals, just like I'm feeling a lot for the humans. And when I say I'm feeling a lot, I'm feeling a lot. I mean, you're feeling a lot. We're all feeling a lot. And I don't want us to start thinking that we need a miracle to get us out of this mess. I feel like the miracle is the mess. The miracle is the mess. And the mess we're in is actually exactly what it is, a tool. It's an opportunity. It's in the middle of this mess that we find real growth and real learning. And ideally, where we learn what behavior is becoming and supportive of our mutual aid and collective caring. And we also, in this moment, can learn and internalize better what behavior is destructive and destroying of our future and future generations to come. And so I feel like this crisis, it's clear and it's present, it's tangible and it's real. The crisis is wrapped into our polarization, our forgetting to listen to the land, to slow down, to listen to the birds singing during a sunset. The crisis is our moving so fast and rushing to build and consume and build and consume and to build and to consume. And we have been consuming desires that seem to not have an end. But an end to some of our desires might be what is needed to find stable ground, to find balance again, to find stable ground, to find an anchor in what is chaotic. We'll need to slow down. We'll need to take care of each other and heal our relationships with each other and the world. And that means seeing the world in all of its pain, in all of its joy, and to hold both those truths simultaneously. You got to hold both the pain and the joy at the same time. That is the dance of being human right now, of being uniquely alive in this moment. That is taking your power back. And to know that if we want to build a world of joy and love, then we need to commit to something larger than just ourselves. We are trying to balance the contradiction of our lives, the balance of the contradictions in the world. And it is exhausting. It is exhausting to have to live with the mistakes we've made. And this is a big, important question of our time. Why are we afraid to embrace difference and to learn from our mistakes? And so I encourage us to think about how life everywhere has its place and how the situation we're in is a condition that has arisen because of causes. And those causes are our inability in the past to acknowledge something as clearly presented by scientists around the world as climate change. You all remember the time when there were climate change deniers everywhere. More than probably half the electorate in the United States were climate change deniers. People that didn't believe climate change was real. Many of them lived in Florida or live in Florida, a state that is at the literal headwaters of climate change. And these climate change deniers are now some of the same people who might be thinking, how do I move from this state? How do I get to safety? How do I sell my home that is inevitably sinking? So things change. Things are gonna change, y'all. And at this point, we can't stop the change. And we can't hold climate change deniers to their views from 10 years ago. They are also entitled to change their opinions based on their life experiences. We all change. The fundamental nature of reality is change. There's no way to stop what's already in motion. Things are in motion. It's not going to help us. We're not going to remove chaos from our lives by trying to be in denial that things are chaotic. We actually have to accept at some point that there's a problem. There's a major problem, and one of the major problems is we as humans are expecting a miracle, when what we really need to do is agree on a shared direction for humanity. And we've been having a really hard time acknowledging that we are in some ways, as humans, extremely violent creatures on this planet. And I think we need to start acknowledging that, and that the violence that is a part of our lives is actually an expression of a deeper internal dis-ease, a dis-ease of our minds and an imbalance of our ability to be love in the face of fear. I think we're afraid of a lot. I think we fear. So I want to root this right now for all of us. Like when I think about what's happening in the world, I know the earth is alive. We all know that healing and transforming the world is not going to happen overnight. Healing doesn't happen overnight, and change is happening every single day, every moment. And there's different levels and versions of the change. And to say we need a miracle right now is to probably almost deny the miracle of what is. The miracle of what is literally seeing the formation of such cataclysmic change overnight. But it didn't happen overnight. That's the thing. It's happening as a repercussion of decades and decades of irresponsible leadership and decision making. So you all know that this is hurricane season. It's literally, metaphorically, spiritually, a hurricane season. And there's a quote that I always love, and I'm not sure who to attribute it to right now, but the general idea of the quote is that peace is being clear and calm and tranquil in your heart, even when you are in the middle of the hurricane. Peace does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. And so all around us may be chaos, causing underlying levels of stress and anxiety. And the question is, how do we find meaningful ways to be in the world when we know the world is so deeply divided? And so that's part of my question for all of us. How are you contributing to healing instead of creating more pain? Because there may be a lot of things not in our control, but there are some things that are in our control. And how can we contribute to making us all whole again? So I want to give us a second to pause and be whole again with our breath. And I'm going to invite you to just take a moment and pause wherever you are, wherever you might be. I know it's a little unusual. You're listening to a podcast, but let's just do this as a way to calm our central nervous system down a little bit and move into embodying a relaxed state. I'm going to invite you to take your hands and your palms over to your belly and keep your lips joined together. And if you can't move your hands at the moment, just you can do the breath with me wherever you are. So with your lips joined together, I invite you to inhale through your nose really deep and inhale deep into the belly. Now exhale through your nose. Let all the air go. Take a deep breath in one more time, filling the belly, expanding. Now hold your breath for 3, 2, 1. Exhale all the air, releasing. Deep inhalation for 3 seconds into the belly. 3, 2, 1. Now I'm going to invite you to hold your breath for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 3, 2, 1. Last breath together. Inhale, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 3, 2, 1. And relax your breath. You can inhale, just come back to normal breath. Simple breath pattern, 3-3-3 pattern. You can do this anytime, anywhere, just to kind of bring a little bit of calm into your central nervous system, a simple breathing tool. If you're feeling a little anxious or you feel a little chaotic, take some breaths, make them rhythmic, count your inhale, count your exhale, and just keep trying to come back to your center, because you being in your center helps those around you to be in their center. And the more of us that can stand in our center, and the more of us that can be grounded and rooted, the more space we can create for the world to spin and move in all these different directions it needs to. And we can keep holding the space and cultivating the kindness and the compassion and the caring and the equanimity so that we can be a beacon of receptivity and light in a world that sometimes can feel dim. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. I hope that this episode created a little bit of grounding for you wherever you are. Be well, be safe, be strong. Keep holding each other up. I'll connect with you again in a couple of weeks. And be sure to check out the show notes to find some ways to donate and to support relief efforts in Asheville, North Carolina, where the most damage has happened from the apocalyptic floods out there. Stay connected. Keep breathing. Peace. Everlutionary, restoring balance and healing the natural world, is brought to you by me, Hawah Kasat. If you would like to find out more about me and my story, head to hawah.us. That's HAWAH.US. And then make sure to search for me in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you for listening. Stay in touch. Peace.